Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going over my running back start or sit decisions for week number 3 of the 2022 fantasy football season. Inside today's video, we'll be going in depth into every single matchup of week number 3, and I'll be telling you guys whether I believe you should start or sit the notable running backs in every single matchup. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. And if you do want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at Notorious FNTSY. So without further ado, let's jump into my week 3 running back start or sit decisions. We begin with Thursday Night Football, the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cleveland Browns, the game that everyone has been clamoring for, the great quarterback matchup of Kissin' Titties Mitchell Trubisky versus Jacoby Brissett. In this game, you are obviously going to be starting running back 9-inch Nicholas Chubb. Nick Chubb did so good last week. He cares so much about your fantasy team that he ran in a touchdown instead of just sliding or walking out of bounds or just taking a knee or something. He scored a touchdown, which cost his team the game. So, huge round of applause for 9-inch Nicholas Chubb scoring a touchdown for our fantasy teams instead of winning his own team the game. Nick Chubb is a very safe and reliable running back every single week. Is he going to put up that crazy of a performance weekly? Probably not, because Kareem Hunt is there, but 9-inch Nicholas Chubb is extremely safe, and I like him up against the Steelers defense, even though the Steelers defense up against the run isn't some pushover, right? They're still pretty decent. Kareem Hunt is a start-worthy running back every single week, but you never really know exactly what you're going to get out of Hunt when you go into the week. This could be a game where Kareem Hunt scores like 9 or 10 PPR points, or he's going to go absolutely fucking bananas and score 25 plus points. And while you never really know which one you are going to get, I think this could be a competitive game between the Steelers and the Browns. Thus, Jacoby Brissett dumping the ball off more to Kareem Hunt and him having a very solid game, because that Browns game last week against the Jets was a very Nick Chubb narrative game because they're beating the shit out of the Jets. Now, I know they lost the game, but the narrative in that game, the game script, goes towards Chubb. If this is closer, if the Steelers are able to keep this close, then Hunt will be more involved this week. Najee Harris is a guy to start, but he's not a guy that I'm super excited about. Najee Harris has been a huge disappointment since week 1. Now, I understand he's a little bit banged up, so I'm not going to say that Najee Harris is just some complete and utter fucking bust in terms of fantasy football, but I'm not as confident in him as I was earlier on when I was doing my fantasy football drafts. Najee Harris is a fine start, but again, not a guy that I'm screaming to the mountaintops about like I would for 9-inch Nicholas Chubb. I will be sitting down Jaylen Warren in this game because Mike Tomlin uses a workhorse running back, so when Najee Harris is healthy, he's going to be the guy seeing a majority of the touches. Now we move to the first game on Sunday, the New Orleans Saints at the Carolina Panthers. Now, right now, I am unsure on if Alvin Kamara is going to end up suiting up in this game or not. Now, in the waiver wire video that I dropped last night prior to the 2 Monday Night Football games, I talked about how there is still a chance that Alvin Kamara not only misses this game up against the Panthers, but also misses their next matchup in week number 4. If Kamara plays, I'm fucking starting him. I'm obviously going to play him because of where I drafted him and because of the skill set that he possesses. But if he doesn't play, again, the start is assuming he plays. If he doesn't play, then I would start Mark Ingram. I know Mr. Mark Ingram struggled up against the Bucs defense last week, but there's a big big difference, I should say, between the Bucs defense against the run and between the Carolina Panthers defense against the run. I think we could see Mark Ingram go absolutely fucking banana lands if he is able to start for the team. So I definitely would be firing up Mark Ingram if Kamara doesn't play. Christian McCaffrey. Now, Christian McCaffrey, I understand he's been banged up over the last 2 years, but when the guy was healthy, we saw greatness out of him. I know Christian McCaffrey still has greatness inside of him, but the Carolina Panthers have it locked up. They have that dog inside of him locked up in a fucking cage. They aren't giving him the ball enough, and that is extremely evident. If they continue to not game plan the ball into Christian McCaffrey's hands, then this team is going to struggle mightily, and Matt Rule's ass is going to get fired. He is going to get fired. Why is the team not giving the ball to their best player and who could be the best running back in the NFL? So again, I'm starting Christian McCaffrey, but Am I saying he's going to be the number one running back this week? No. The first 2 weeks have proved that Matt Rule is incompetent. So, Christian McCaffrey, you can still start him. Maybe I should start blaming Baker Mayfield because he's not giving him the ball either. I pray that things change. I'm praying to the fantasy football lords above that Christian McCaffrey starts getting the ball more. But right now, I'm pretty worried. I'm still starting him, but I'm not expecting a crazy game. Down to Foreman, unless Christian McCaffrey gets hurt, knock on wood, don't want to root for injuries, especially for Christian McCaffrey, then he is pretty irrelevant. Next up, we move to the Houston Texans at the Chicago Bears. Now, the Bears, for some reason, just don't know how to throw the ball. They don't throw the ball at all. I believe I read a tweet that Justin Fields ranks 33rd in passing attempts per game. There are 32 NFL teams. 32 NFL teams, this man just doesn't throw the ball. Now I understand, Nick, just excuse what happened against the 49ers. It was that crazy torrential downpour that you were talking about. Yeah, I'll excuse that. Then why weren't they throwing the ball up against the Packers? Why are they just handing the ball off to David fucking Montgomery every play? David Montgomery is a guy you gotta start because Matt Eberflus just wants to hand the ball off to him left and right all game long. So David Montgomery is a start. Dameon Pierce is going to be a sit. But we saw last week, Pierce is getting more and more involved. They're doing the good old just put the tip in type of scenario, right? They're easing him in, just the tip, and then it's going to get deeper and deeper and deeper until Dameon Pierce becomes a must-start running back every single week. Right now, I'm not throwing him in. I think he could go crazy up against the Bears. I'm going to sit him down. Again, if you're in a really deep league, you're down bad, there's far worse running backs to start than Dameon Pierce, but he's far from an ideal start for me. Khalil Herbert, I like Khalil Herbert. I think he's a talented player. I think he might honestly be more talented than David Montgomery, but last week up against the Packers proved to me that they still want David Montgomery to be the guy. Next up, we move to the Kansas City Chiefs at the Indianapolis Colts, and what a disaster the Indianapolis Colts are. Matt Ryan looks awful. Matt Ryan is the reason why this team is getting butt-fucked every game. Matt Ryan couldn't put up a single point up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Even in that game, Jonathan Taylor was fine. He wasn't ideal, but I'm starting to worry about the Colts, and I'm thinking as well, Frank Reich, bye-bye. Bye-bye, pal. It seems like your ass is grass, especially if you don't even put up a fight against the Chiefs. You just got smoked, devoured by the Jaguars. If you lose this game to the Chiefs by a zillion at home, see you later, pal. But I'm still playing Jonathan Taylor, obviously, because he's so good. Clyde Edwards-Helaire keeps proving that he's great. I talked a lot in the offseason. I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You don't now have to draft him in the first or second round. Now he's going in the 6th round, the 7th round, the 8th round. And in a lot of the underdog fantasy drafts, the sponsor of today's video, the drafts that I was doing in the offseason, you could get Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the 9th or 10th round. It was a steal, a bargain. Clyde Edwards-Helaire going up against the Colts defense. The Colts defense looks bad. The Colts defense on paper is pretty good, but they haven't looked good. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is definitely a start for me. The other running backs in this game, Naheem Hines, is definitely involved on the team, but not start worthy. Same thing goes for Jerick McKinnon. Next up, we move to the no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills at my Miami Dolphins. The battle of two of the 2-0 teams in the NFL. I can't believe it as a Dolphins fan that we are 2-0 after we absolutely butt-fucked the Baltimore Ravens last week. What a game that was. The first half, the Dolphins look like they have no life. In the second half, the Dolphins destroyed the Ravens. It was amazing. Huge round of applause for the Dolphins. While I'm so interested in this game, while I think everyone in the football world who is just looking, obviously you want to watch your team. But if you're just looking objectively, what should be the most potential fun game of the week? I think this is it, but not at running back. I really like Devin Singletary in the offseason. Guess what? I'll accept maybe I was wrong. Maybe when you're as good as the Buffalo Bills are at passing, you don't have to run the ball. Even when you take a deuce on the chest of the Les Titans on Monday Night Football up against the Titans, Devin Singletary is not involved. They're not running the ball. They're just going to keep throwing the ball until they have to put fucking Case Keenum in. And once they put Keenum in, they're like, oh, Devin Singletary's still pretty good. Like, he's a good player. Zach Moss, or I think it was James Cook. They're like, oh, James Cook, have fun, pal. You can run the ball. This sucks because I think Devin Singletary is talented, but until he starts actually putting up numbers, you're sitting him as well as Zach Moss because honestly, I think James Cook is the number 3 back on the team. Chase Edmonds, I also liked him a lot in the offseason. Looked like he was going to be the number 1 running back. He's still playing good for the Dolphins, but he's not playing good enough to crack your starting roster. And look, while I want the Dolphins to win, I hope the Dolphins can win. I'm a big fan of the Dolphins. I know what the Bills have done to us in the past. The Bills have done those things that like in old movies they would do when like a bully would bully a kid and they take the head of the kid and they throw it in the, what is that called? A swirly? Put it in the toilet and start flushing the toilet. That's what the Bills have done to the Dolphins for years. For years. Maybe now it's our time as a Dolphins fan, but again, there's no bias in these takes. The Dolphins, Raheem Mostert's looking interesting because he might be getting more involved, but right now, Edmonds and Mostert are definitely guys who want to sit down. Same thing goes with the Buffalo Bills backs. Next up, we move to the Detroit Lions at the Minnesota Vikings, and I should have seen it coming. I should have known that. I have seen Kirk Cousins play so many times on primetime. I believe the guy is 2-10 or 2-12. I'm not going to check the facts of this because why would I? Right? I'm in the middle of talking. Either 2-10 or 2-12 against the spread in primetime. This guy sucks in primetime. It's honestly hilarious to see how Kirk Cousins in week 1 took the Packers defense out back and did whatever he wanted to him. Against the Eagles, I guess the Eagles have a decent defense, yes, but against the Eagles, the guy looked like Stevie Wonder trying to throw the ball. It was hilarious how bad he was. This week, they hop back on the saddle, but Dalvin Cook's usage, even when they destroy the Packers, is not very high. These first-round running backs in fantasy football have been a disaster. Most of them have been disasters. DeAndre Swift's a guy I liked. He's looking good. Dalvin Cook, though, not so much, but you still got to start Dalvin Cook because you know if the team just realizes, hey, let's throw it to Dalvin Cook. Now, I know, Nick, they tried using a bunch of screens last game. Yeah, they used 1,000,000 screens where the running back just goes to the right or to the left and the line follows. They go push forward and he gets fucking dropped for -3 yards. Hopefully they figure it out. Hopefully the Vikings figure it out because no bueno right now for Dalvin Cook. DeAndre Swift looks amazing. The guy literally ran, caught the ball from Goff, fell, took a nap on the field, stood up, and ran into the end zone on Sunday. I've never seen something like that before. He took a nice nap, got up, there was still no one around him, and he scored a touchdown. It was crazy. While it definitely wasn't the best highlight on Sunday, it was certainly the funniest. Jamal with 2 A's Williams, he's always there, sneaking, lurking in the distance, ready to pounce and steal a touchdown away from Jamal, or away from DeAndre Swift, which is going to happen on a lot of teams, but for right now, it does appear DeAndre Swift is that guy. Alexander Mattison, he's a great handcuff, but when Cook is healthy, we don't really see much of Mattison. Next up, we move to the Baltimore Ravens at the New England Patriots. This game could get ugly. This game might be a slaughter by the Ravens. The Ravens choke against the Dolphins. The Patriots beat the Steelers, who aren't very good. So I'm thinking the Ravens might just, or they could come out flat, right? They might just be like, oh, we lost last week, have low motivation, or they take that loss and just eat it for breakfast and destroy the Patriots. I think one or two things are going to happen. I think the Ravens are going to play good in this game, but Dobbins is still banged up. I don't think he's going to play. Kenyon Drake doesn't look good. They use Justice Hill. They have all these other running backs. Just stay away from the Ravens running backs until Dobbins is fully healthy. For the Patriots, Damian Harris looks like the guy. Damian Harris, though, a little bit banged up. Stevenson's the only healthy one, but it does appear that Bill Belichick and this offense, Matt Patricia calling the plays, wants to use Damian Harris. He's a pretty talented back. I don't really expect him to be like a top 18 guy even, but I think he could be like RB20, RB23, have a decent game, not really sink your ship, but not really elevate you to the next level, but just be pretty decent. Next up, we move to the Cincinnati Bengals at the New York Jumbo Jets. The Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals. What happened, guys? What happened? Genuinely. You go to the Super Bowl, you beat the Chiefs, you beat all these teams, you beat the Titans, you look amazing. World beaters. They lose the Super Bowl. It is what it is, right? Hey, you made it. You looked good. The Rams team was stacked. It is what it is. You kept the game close. Congratulations. Joe Burrow gets banged up in that game, comes back. They almost could have won that game. I definitely believe that. But now, you start the season, you lose twice in a row. You lose to Mitchell Trubisky, and then you lose to Cooper fucking Rush. So Bengals, what's happening? You Bengals fans, maybe let me know in the comment section. What has happened? Because they shore up the offensive line. They get a better offensive line. The offensive line is now worse. Despite bringing in better players, the offensive line is still a fucking turnstile. The offensive line is more open than the sea when Moses parted that thing. Okay? The Bengals' offensive line is dog shit. Somehow. They still have Joe Shiesty, Joe Burrow. They still have Joe Mixon. They have Jamar Chase. They have Titty Boy T. Higgins. They have Tyler Boyd. And they bring in Hayden Hurst. So what's wrong? Why is it not working? It could be Zach Taylor. Joe Mixon has been fine through the first 2 games. Not ideal, but fine. I'm still going to play Joe Mixon. The Jets just got absolutely throttled by 9-inch Nicholas Chubb. So you better believe Mixon should have a good game. But this Bengals team, if you lose to the Jets, if you lose to cool Joe Flacco, yikes. Yikes. For the Jets, Breece Hall, Michael Carter, they're still just not starting guys that I want to be starting every week. Again, if I have to pick one gun to the head, who's going to score more fantasy points, I'll tell you Breece Hall. I think Breece Hall is talented. It feels eerily like a couple of years ago when Nick Chubb was a rookie and he's chilling on the bench. Was it Isaiah Crowell ahead of him? I don't remember, so don't quote me on that. But Nick Chubb's got it. He's got it, but he's not getting the touches. I think eventually Breece Hall will become the guy, and Breece Hall will be very useful for fantasy football and potentially be a league-winning running back despite being terrible for the first couple of weeks of the season. But you got to make sure that your team is strong so that you can get there, get to the playoffs, and then Breece Hall will come alive. So Bengals at Jets, starting Joe Mixon and sitting down Breece Hall as well as Michael Carter. Next up, we move to the turn your volume down, the 0-2 matchup, the matchup of the clowns, the Las Vegas Raiders at the Le Titans, the Tennessee Titans. Derrick Henry looked like the motherfucker was running in molasses. He looked like he was running in quicksand. It was comical. It was like an old cartoon, the way he was running. Not good. Obviously, they bench him because no need to get this guy hurt when the Buffalo Bills are just butt-fucking the Titans without the use of lube. But now we get the Raiders. One of these teams has got to win. The Raiders just absolutely, completely choked the game away up against Short King Kyler Murray. The Titans get throttled by the Bills. The Bills are a great team. The Bills might just be too good, and it doesn't even matter, right? Oh, we lost to the Bills. Well, the Bills are the best team in the league. So maybe Tannehill bounces back, who looks bad. Maybe Derrick Henry bounces back. But am I confident in Derrick Henry up against the Raiders? Not really. Not really. Am I going to start him? Yes. Am I trading Derrick Henry for a used condom? No. But do I want to roll Derrick Henry out there with full confidence? Of course not. Of course not. Josh Jacobs is in a good position because while this is an RBBC, a running back by committee, Josh Jacobs is still the number 1 guy. But if they can't score, like if they're not getting to the goal line, not knocking on the door and busting one through, then Jacobs is going to struggle. Jacobs far from ideal. I really wasn't a big fan of drafting him, but you're going to have to keep playing him because there is a chance this Raiders offense just plays amazing. Because on paper, the Raiders offense looks great. We just haven't really seen it yet, besides Devontae Adams in week 1. Amir Abdullah, you're sitting him down. Hassan Haskins, these other Titans backs, you're sitting them down. Next up, we move to the Philadelphia Eagles at the Washington Commanders. Miles Sanders doesn't play that great, but they beat the Vikings handily on Monday Night Football. The Commanders lose a mightily fight, they lose mightily, right? They fight back up against the Lions. Lions are beating them down. They try to come back. They lose. But a decent fight. Like, Wentz is looking good. Gibson looking good until Brian Robinson appears. And then I think Brian Robinson is going to screw Antonio Gibson over. But for now, it's Gibby season. Antonio Gibson's still the guy, so you're going to fire him out there with a decent amount of confidence. Miles Sanders, he's all right. He's all right. He's not a guy that, oh, I'm so excited to play Miles Sanders. He's not a guy that when I put him in my starting lineup, I'm looking at my team and I'm like, oh, goddamn, I'm so glad I get to play Miles Sanders. No, I don't think that. But I do think Miles Sanders is good enough to start in my lineup. Again, not a top-tier guy, but a guy I'm starting. I definitely have a little bit more confidence in Antonio Gibson if I was comparing the two. I definitely would prefer to have Gibson over Sanders. Kenneth Gainwell wasn't really involved. Boston Scott still getting some usage. Like, this team wants to use multiple running backs under Nick Sirianni, the head coach of the Eagles. So Sanders, Gainwell, Scott, all going to get play, but Sanders is the guy. J.D. McKissick, I thought there was a chance Riverboat Ron was going to do us dirty with Gibson, even when Brian Robinson was gone and J.D. McKissick was going to be involved. He hasn't really played a big part in this offense, so for right now, Gibson's the guy, as well as Miles Sanders, and I will be comfortable starting both of them again. Obviously, I am a little bit more confident when it comes to starting Mr. Antonio Gibson over starting Miles Sanders, but before we move on in to the next game, I'd like to ask if you guys are new to the channel, that you hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit that like button too, and I would also like to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our sponsor. They've been on your screen this whole entire video over on Underdog Fantasy. Are your best ball teams already cooked? Well, if they are, head on over to Underdog Fantasy to resurrect them with their Week 6 through 17 best ball tournament. The entry fee is only $10 with $500,000 in total prizes and $100,000 going to first place, the numero uno team. All you got to do on Underdog is draft your team. That's it. You don't have to worry about the waivers, don't have to worry about trades, don't even have to worry about setting your lineup because Underdog will automatically give you your best scores at the end of the week and they're going to throw them into your lineup. Underdog also features daily and best ball contests in all sports, MLB, NBA, PGA, and NHL. So you can play on there all year long. All you got to do is click on the link in the video description down below or use promo code Stokastic, Stokastic, to get a first match deposit bonus of up to $100 with Underdog Fantasy. So make sure you guys check that out. They also have contests for Thursday Night Football. You can just do a Thursday Night Football draft. Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football. They have that as well. And the whole slate on Sunday. I did last night, Monday Night Football, both of the games. I put in $10, $5 for 2 entries, came out with $11. So I'm up $1. The draft went pretty well. It's pretty fun, and I love drafting, so that's honestly why I do it all the time, because I think drafting is incredibly fun. That's one of the biggest reasons as to why I like fantasy football so much. Next up, we move back on into things here with the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Los Angeles Chargers. All right, Travis Etienne, I gave you your last try. The last ride last week was with Etienne before I shift my love to James Robinson. Have you ever seen that meme? That meme where it's like, my friendship is over with whatever the name is. My new best friend is this. My friendship is over with Travis Etienne. My new best friend is James Robinson. I was a big James Robinson guy. I drafted him. He's on like all my fantasy teams. But last week, I sat him down for some other running backs. I said, you know what? Let's see one last ride out of Etienne because I think Etienne has the juice in him. Now, I don't think he has the O.J. Simpson juice where he's going to go stab his wife or something, but I do think he has the juice in him. But came out after week 1 that he was a bit spooked on the play when the ball was coming to him. Guess what? James Robinson isn't fucking spooked by anyone. James Robinson gets hurt. A big injury at the end of last season, comes back in week number 1, and he says, Travis Etienne, who's your fucking daddy? It's me, motherfucker. It's James Robinson time, and I'm happy about it. I love James Robinson. The Chargers defense, definitely not soft. This is not a soft defense. The Jaguars are looking good. James Robinson is a startable running back, and I'm excited about him this week. Austin Eckler, week 1, dud. Week 2, looking early on, dud. But at the end of the game, for some reason, they just kept dumping the ball off Eckler. He has a decent day. I'm starting to worry about Eckler slightly. Now, I'm putting the yellow flag up, not the red flag, not the, oh no, panic like in SpongeBob when the thing's going off in his head when he's trying to figure out fine dining and everything is just on fire in his brain, everything's going up in flames. No, I'm not at that point of panic yet. It's not DEFCON 5 or 1, whichever one's worse. But it is, what's going on here? That's kind of my thought on it. Still going to play Eckler, though. Joshua Kelly, Sony Michel are going to be sits for me. And then Travis Etienne's a sit. The guy's a bum. Next up, we move to the LA Rams at the Arizona Cardinals. While I loved Darrell Henderson last week, I spoke on the possibility that, hey, maybe, just maybe, they're going to keep still trying to use Cam Akers because the team likes Cam Akers. Last week, we saw Akers get the ball up against the Falcons. But who looked better? Who got in for the touchdown? Henderson. They're still going to use Akers. So it's not like Henderson's a guy every single week I want to believe in. I want him every week in my lineup. But until Akers overtakes Henderson, I'm going to keep playing Henderson. But if last week is like this week, like if this week, this is what I should have said, if this week is like last week, then the amount of time you're going to be able to start Henderson, the days are numbered. But right now up against Arizona, in what could be a back-and-forth high-scoring affair, I want Henderson. James Conner, banged up in that game, exits up against the Las Vegas Raiders. The Cardinals, the short king Kyler Murray, the king of Call of Duty, they end up winning the game, shockingly. A great comeback. Week 2 was just comeback city for these teams. The Jets, the Cardinals, and the Dolphins. Conner plays okay in the game, he gets hurt, so not going to really take anything away from that game, right? Gets hurt, it is what it is. So, I believe right now James Conner is going to play from what I have read. But we all know that things happen. James Conner might not come back as quickly as they assume, you know? It's not like when the doctor or when the teams are saying these things that it's a lock that he plays on Sunday. So, I just want to put that out there, that there is a chance that James Conner misses. There's a chance. So if he misses, then I'll play Darrell Williams. But I'm not overwhelmingly confident in Darrell Williams. Well, I think he's good because they have Eno Benjamin, baby. Eno Benjamin. Still on the team. So slight worry about that. But again, I'm still in the mindset, it's going to be James Conner on Sunday. Again, Cam Akers might be creeping up. Might eventually become a guy that you want to be starting. But right now, I'm letting him ride the pine. Next up, we will pivot to the Atlanta Falcons at the Seattle Seahawks game. Cordero Patterson, not the best up against the Rams. I told a lot of people to start him, so you know what, Nick, you were wrong. It's okay, right? You're going to be wrong sometimes, right? Just because this is my job, just because I talk about fantasy football on the internet, doesn't mean I'm going to be right 100% of the time. Shocker, right? It's impossible to be right every time. Patterson doesn't play too well, but he's there in the game. He's getting the work. He just didn't do too much with it. But that was up against the Rams defense. I know, Nick, the Rams got destroyed. They got skull-fucked by the Bills. But there's a big difference between the Bills and the Falcons. Cordero Patterson, still a good player. The Seahawks defense, not very hot up against the running offense of the 49ers, even with Trey Lance out. Cordero Patterson seems like a good spot for a bounce-back game up against Seattle. You hate to see it, or I hate to see it. Rashad Penny, Kenneth Walker is back. Travis Homer is there. No bueno. No bueno, as they would say, because while I thought that Pete was going to run with the hot hand, Pete's mixing everyone in. Now, maybe if this game's close, maybe because they got blown out, that's why they were doing that. Maybe if this is a close game, they keep going with Penny. So I'm still holding out hope on Penny. I'm not dropping him off my team, but shit's not looking too sweet for Mr. Rashad Penny. Tyler Algiers is sit, as is Kenneth Walker. Next up, we move to the Green Bay Packers at the Buccaneers. What an exciting game this would have been if everyone on the Buccaneers was healthy. If Mike Evans didn't beat the shit out of Lattimore. If Julio was playing. If Godwin was there. But instead, it doesn't seem like we're going to... Well, definitely not getting Evans. Julio, I'm not too sure about. Sucks. Godwin's definitely not playing. This just sucks compared to what it could have been. But hey, I digress. For the running backs, it's looking nice. Leonard Fournette tweets out, all my fantasy owners or managers, whatever you called them, I'm sorry. I haven't scored any touchdowns, but I'm going to get back on the saddle. And I appreciate that, Leonard Fournette. I appreciate that. That was almost as funny as the Amon-Ra St. Brown Instagram post where someone like DM'd him on Instagram and was like, you fucked over my fantasy team or something. You better not suck this year or whatever. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown basically like took a part of that and then put it on his Instagram post after he just went off against the Washington Commanders. So that was hilarious to see when the guys interact with the fantasy football people. I just think that's very funny. Uncle Lenny, he's seen better days, but he hasn't looked bad. He's still the focal number one RB on this team. Rachaad White isn't really going to be sealing away any touches or anything like that unless Uncle Lenny gets hurt. So, Mr. Fournette, I'm still playing you. Every week, things might flip-flop for the Packers. Up against the Bears, Aaron Jones just torched him. Aaron Jones put on his sombrero as well as his those cool glasses, the Pit Vipers. I don't know if he actually put the sombrero on, but normally he does, right, when he's playing well. I don't know if he did or not. To be honest with you, that game was kind of a snooze fest. I was watching the game, but I wasn't looking for the sombrero. I tweeted out a picture, though, of Aaron Rodgers in the sombrero. I said, it's sombrero time, baby. I love Aaron Jones when he does that. But Aaron Rodgers went on the Pat McAfee show either today or yesterday. I saw the clip today. said, hey, we want to get 28 and 33 the ball. 28 is Dillon, 33 is Jones, and they say, hey, it's hard. Like, we want to give both these guys the balls ideally 30 times a game for the two of them. So not 30 each, but 15 and 15. Ideally, that's what they want to do. Some games it's going to be Jones, some games it's going to be Dillon. You know, while it sucks for fantasy, you still want to roll them out there because of the upside they have. This matchup against the Bucs is far from ideal, as we saw with Mark Ingram. But then again, Jones and Dillon, both better than Mark Ingram. This should be a competitive game, so I'm fine with Dillon as well as Jones. I would definitely lean with Jones, though, over Dillon. If I had both of them, I don't think most people have both of them. And again, I'm going to be sitting down Rachaad White. Now we move to Sunday Night Football. So Thursday Night Football, Trubisky versus Brissett. Sunday Night Football, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy G-Spot, Jimmy Pornstar versus Russell Wilson. Not that bad, but Monday Night Football, spoiler, I mean, you probably knew what Monday Night Football was. I'm not going to spoil the running back start sits, but Cooper Rush versus Daniel Jones. Super exciting slate we got, NFL. Thank you. I mean, this game would have been really exciting, Lance versus Russell Wilson, but that's not what we get. Jeff Wilson, speaking of Wilson, Jeff Wilson Jr. looks good. Tyrion Davis-Price now out for 2 months, it seems like. Jordan Mason, now the second guy. Might just be Jeff Wilson getting force-fed the ball until he gets hurt. And we all know these Niners running backs love to get hurt, so while that's a risk, again, knock on wood, I'm not rooting for injuries, I was just making a joke. I like Jeff Wilson a ton this week up against the Broncos defense. The Broncos, like, Nathaniel Hackett, what the fuck are you doing, pal? How do you keep the game so close against Houston, and how do you lose to the Seattle Seahawks? What the fuck is this guy doing? They're getting to the red zone easily. They walk up the field. They march up the field with aggression. And then they get in the red zone and they forget how to play the game of football. They forget how, hey, I just threw the ball 40 fucking yards to Cortland Sutton, but I can't, then Russell Wilson just loses it. Like his brain combusts. Nathaniel Hackett's brain combusts and nothing right happens. I know. Oh, Nick, they beat the Texans. Of course they beat the Texans. If they lost to the Texans, then Hackett's ass is done. But what is he doing? What is happening? Again, I'm not trying to rant. We're just talking about running backs, but it's fucking frustrating. It is. It's really frustrating. If I was a fan of the Broncos, I would fucking have thrown my remote through the television multiple times. Now, again, I would never actually do that because I paid too much for this television. Okay? I've got a nice TV. But I would think about it. I would definitely imagine what it would look like if I launched my remote at the TV. That's how pissed I would be if I was a Broncos fan. Javonte Williams is the guy. They want to use him. Melvin Gordon's still going to get touches. Melvin Gordon in positive games where they should realistically destroy a team, which isn't going to happen against the Niners, but in a game against the Texans, you'd think Gordon would be good, and I think he will be good at the end of the season, because the team's going to figure it out, right? They're not going to be this bad all season, because if they are, then what a disaster that will be, and Hackett might be gone. But Javonte Williams, for now, you definitely want to start him, though. He is the guy. Jordan Mason's a sit. Melvin Gordon is a sit. We close today's video out with Monday Night Football, because you waited all day. I think it's you waited all day for Sunday night, so retract that. Just erase that from your memory. Like, I'm going to hold up the Men in Black thing. Just don't remember what I said. All right, Cowboys, Giants in MetLife. Ezekiel Elliott? Oh, man, Ezekiel Elliott does not look good at all. It's sad. It's sad because I thought, oh, you know what, last year, he was hurt. He was hurt for a lot of the year. That's it. That's why he was bad. Weeks 1 and 2, doesn't look good. Am I going to start him? Yes. Do I want to start him? No. No, I do not. I think there are a lot worse options to start than Zeke, but am I clamoring to start Ezekiel Elliott? No, I'm not. Saquon? I'm excited about that. Now, I understand he regressed from week 1. Week 1, he's at the tippy top. Week 2, a little bit further down. But in week 3, up against the Dallas Cowboys defense, I think he could bounce back. I think he could have a big game here. I like Saquon Barkley. Tony Pollard looked good. But again, the team still wants to use Zeke. They still want to tote the rock with Zeke. So it makes Pollard basically unusable. Because you're not going to start Pollard, have him get 5 carries, nothing, like 6 yards, and then you're fucked. And even in the games where Pollard gets like a huge run, then they just go right back to Zeke. It makes no sense. Doesn't add up. does not add up. Matt Breida, unless Barkley is hurt, knock on wood, we don't root for injuries, then Matt Breida is basically useless. So thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you did end up enjoying the tirades we went on, the fun time, the roller coaster of a ride that this video was, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. I'm sure you enjoyed the analysis of every single game. Hit that like button as well. Make sure you check me out on Twitter as well. I make a lot of tweets about memes about the Dolphins. I'm a Dolphins fan, but I also answer questions on there, and I also tweet out things that are not about the Dolphins as well. It's just on Sunday, your Twitter feed will be blasted anally by me talking about the Dolphins. Thank you guys for watching. I do love you guys all so much. Make sure you check out Underdog Fantasy. Promo code Stokastic for that $100 first match deposit bonus. You deposit $100, you'll receive an additional $100. That's 10 free entries into the Best Ball Resurrection Tournament. I love you guys so much. I hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good boy.